So February 2020, I was about to go on a trip to Cabo and I was laying on the couch watching TV, and it was an average day. And I felt a lump on the side of my right breast. And immediately I was like, I've done breast exams before, but this was different. Like I could tell it was like a knot. And to be honest, my first thought was, I don't feel like doing all of this. I'm gonna have to go to the doctor. And I didn't break down. I didn't freak out. I was just like, okay, when I get back from Cabo, I'm gonna go to the doctor. When they said it, I was like, calcium. Like I didn't realize that was something that when they see that it's kind of a flag. Let's just say a caution, because kind of that's how they told me that's sometimes how it starts.
Time to embrace change and be about that life.
This is Dr. Bass with the About That L.I.F.E podcast, the podcast about life or living intentionally forever. As you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And unfortunately for African Americans, we have some of the highest risk of developing breast cancer, presenting at a later stage, and having problems and complications such as metastatic disease. Well, this month, we're delving into breast cancer from a different perspective. Not only do we have providers talking about how they're encouraging prevention and talking to patients about various treatment modalities, but we have technicians identifying strategies about mammography. But most importantly, I want you all to hear a voice of a breast cancer survivor who ultimately said no, who was going to say no to the fact that, I'm just going to be a number. I'm going to stop living the way that I want to. I'm going to stop doing the things that I love, and I'm going to allow this disease to define me. What she's done has been nothing short of amazing, and I'm just elated at the fact that she would give me the opportunity to even talk to her in this space and to join her on this journey of recapturing what it means to be a breast cancer survivor. But that's not all we're going to talk about. We're going to highlight some of the other things that she's done, like starting a new business, teaching people how to manage their business, and I think branching out into the space of digital as well as in-person marketing. So I want to introduce to some and present to others Miss Ahsh Murphy. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. I mean, I see the back. I mean, you got it set up like a studio in there. I told you need to come and touch up the spot over here a little bit. So I know busy day for you, and I'm just glad that you have the time to talk and to chat. But let's hop right into it. So what's your story, right? I know you from being friends of my wife and all that good thing, and I think you all are some of the best friends, and I love that relationship. But what's your story?
Yes. Ooh, okay. So growing up, look, I was a military kid, right? My dad was in the Air Force. So I was born in California, and then shortly after moved to Turkey, where I went to preschool. I went to Merhaba Preschool in Turkey. Yep. Then we moved to Florida, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. My dad was stationed at Eglin, and that's pretty much where I stayed. My dad kept moving, but we pretty much stayed in Florida. So growing up as a kid, I was a little tomboy. I was into everything, and I've always had a very creative mind. I remember taking Barbies and taking like the little ruffle socks and wrapping it around her and making her a nice little dress. Like I didn't need a whole lot. I could create and do a lot of different things with what I had. And my mom and my dad, they were always active in my life. And my mom was always, when I looked at her, she was always, this business professional that, she just knew everybody. I mean, it didn't matter where we went, out of town or whatever.
We were traveling and she knew everybody. I said, how do you know everybody in a foreign country? That's what I want to know. So
crazy. It always happened like that. So I was like, okay, so, I wanted to be like her. And, she was this business professional. But I always, had an interest in helping people. Like that's the one thing for me that whatever I did, I knew that I wanted to help others. And the medical, field always stuck out to me. And so lived in Florida. And so I went to the best school on the highest of 7 hills,
Here you go. Oh my
FAMU University.
This might get edited. No, and I'm glad that you highlighted the fact that again, you
Yes,
went to an HBCU,
I
um,
did.
and when I saw and your bio and your resume are impressive, but
Mhm.
when I saw kind of this healthcare and what you wanted to do in healthcare, how did that come about? And I know you said you wanted to help people, but most people say, I
Mhm.
want to help people and I'll be a doctor or a nurse or something
Mhm.
like that. But they don't pick healthcare management, understanding that the policies you develop not only govern the
Yes.
patients, but they govern the
Mhm.
providers. So talk about that a little bit.
So, understanding that in healthcare, there's so many different sides, right? You got insurance, you got nurses, you got doctors, you got pharmaceutical sales. There's so many different sides. And I first started out in pharmacy, right? I wanted to be a pharmacist. I liked mixing stuff up and doing different things. But when I went and did like a shadowing with a pharmacist, I was like, this is boring. This is really boring. My personality was
All the
different.
pharmacists out there, pharmacy is not boring. Her
I d-
personality
for
didn't
my
fit.
personality, it just didn't fit. I was just like, oh, I don't want to do this. Listen, I have so much respect. I have a lot of friends who are pharmacists, but for me, I was like, okay, how can I mix the two? So I changed my major to healthcare management. My mom, again, she had the business aspect. I was like, okay, so I can do business and I can do medical and I can kind of couple them together and understanding, how healthcare is managed, how hospitals run. And I started learning different aspects of healthcare and the business side of it. So that's kind of how I was like, okay, I want to marry business and healthcare together. And so that's how I got into it. Um, and then I know like my last year of school, we had an assignment. We had to go to the career center and we had to find 3 companies to interview with. And I picked Cigna was one of them. And I actually got hired on at Cigna. So I had a job in New Jersey, which is another story coming from Florida. My last semester. So I already had a job waiting for me when I graduated.
That's what I'm talking
Um,
about.
so that's kind of how I got there.
Wow, and that story is amazing because it started in one space, and that's what I
Mhm.
tell people. I say once you find where you're supposed to be, it's hard
Right.
to get out of that space. But when you're
Mhm.
trying to fit in a space where it doesn't necessarily vibe, I guess walk-in medicine occurs similarly.
Mhm.
Like I didn't really know I wanted to be a doctor until probably later in my senior year, and I was just blessed to be at one of the best
Right.
universities, period. University of Kansas, Rock Chalk J. I got to give a shout out,
Hey,
and
do
they
what
said,
you do.
no problem, take a step back, do what you need to do
Mhm.
because I had gotten a degree in biochemistry and enjoyed it, but just it didn't fit with my personality. And I took the
Right.
route of pharmaceutical sales as well.
Mhm.
And again, at the time, SmithKline Beecham, now
Okay.
GlaxoSmithKline, was where I was able to learn that there are these other facets to medicine, which, again, most folks are, I think, have somewhat of an awareness of, but there's so many different layers. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I know in that business is that there is a ton of turnover. And you in
Yes.
that your current job, this is when I think about this and say this, it's almost like I thought you had a typo. It looks like 12 or 13 years. Since 2011, you've been where you are.
It'll be 13 years, December 19th. I'll be unheard of, right?
I you talking about unheard? No, you don't. That doesn't happen because number one,
Mhm.
people outgrow the space that they had, and then there's no movement for upward mobility. And when I talk about
Mhm.
upward mobility, you are the national exec. Say I don't need. I know the title meant that I got to call somebody before I can get to you. I know that much. I know that's what that title means. But talk about what that title means and what you're able to do in that role in terms of healthcare.
So there's different levels of reps, and I'm at the highest level so I'm a senior executive territory manager. I am also a national sales trainer. So I, new people come in and I'm teaching. and we're going to go ahead and manifest this and speak this into existence. But I'm now about to transition into the medical marketing liaison and professional relations contact person. So things are changing. And to say you've been with a company for almost 13 years, even some of my customers are like, what? Like it is something that I'm proud to say that I've been able to do. I'm well respected in my company. I'm blessed to have such good people around me. I have a great relationship with our VP of sales and our CEO. And so that alone just kind of shows just how, going through when you're at work and you're building these relationships, and, you do different things that stand out, and people, they tend to notice, and, it improves that longevity. And so I am humbly, you know, just thrilled to still be here and still have be well respected in the company.
No, and I think so. First off, congratulations, and I already know that's going to happen. So I'm going to be waiting for my invite to
Yes.
the event that's going to happen to signify. No, I'm serious. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking.
Oh, I'm
You want to? I'm there, right? We there, right?
Let's plan it because it's happening.
It's
It's happening. It is
But-
happening.
And the thing is, the one thing about what I know about you, and if you all can't tell, we're friends, right? We're friends through my wife and been friends a long time. In reading it is that, and I know you said, I'm grateful for them allowing me to stay. I think they see the value that you bring to their organization, right? And I think a lot of young professionals fail to see that. Not if to say that you use it for leverage, but to understand that I have this mantra that I use for a couple of my corporate discussions about diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility is when I talk about how you cultivate that is you have to defend your turf, TIR.
Right.
Now, I know you're saying that ain't how you spell
Okay.
that. But what I tell you, that acronym, when I talk to major corporations, first, by having diversity, you enhance the talent pool. That's your T. Secondly, with you coming in, seeing things from a different perspective, you increase innovation, right? You were able to change the way that they do things and certainly enhance that bottom line. Thirdly, right, you are, right? What that does is when I see that a company is moving in a different direction and they have innovation and they do these other things, I know that it's going to improve recruitment. That's your R. And then finally, and this is important for all businesses, it improves your finance, right? It improves that financial piece. So that's what happens when they have someone like you that has a different spin on things, that has this personality and engages. That's why you've been able to stay there 10, 13, probably 15, 16 years. I don't know. Like I said, I'm coming to the next elevation event because I know it's going to be a great one. And the thing, and we'll talk about this a bit later, is even in that position, as high as you are, you didn't allow that to say, you know what, I like this plateau. I'm going to kind of get a little complacent. I know that you've started some businesses, and what I want to tell people is that in that space, just because you're at a place where you could cruise, man, that's when you need to put the car in that second, third, and fourth gear. So kudos to you. And
Thank you.
I'm just glad to be a part of that energy. That's what that is. I need some of that energy. And like I said, I know this discussion, we're going to shift it into health, and having your perspective, I think, is going to be unique and interesting. But, a few years ago, something happened that kind of changed your life, and talk about what that was and when it happened, and, what was going through your head at that point.
So February 2020, I was about to go on a trip to Cabo, and I was laying on the couch watching TV, and it was an average day, and I felt a lump on the side of my right breast. And immediately I was like, I've done breast exams before, and my mom, she's always had lumpy breasts, but it was normal. But this was different. Like I could tell it was like a knot. And to be honest, my first thought was, I don't feel like doing all of this. I'm gonna have to go to the doctor and I didn't break down. I didn't freak out. I was just like, okay, when I get back from Cabo, I'm gonna go to the doctor. I'm going on this trip then. I got this trip. I was like, I don't even want to think about nothing. And I didn't. I went on a trip, didn't think about anything. So I went to I actually went to the doctor's office to make the appointment because, I feel like when you're in person, you can kind of get something quicker. And I was like, hey, I need to have have an appointment. I feel a lump. So I went to my OB and I told him that I felt a lump and he wanted to do the exam. He's like, don't tell me where it is. Let me find it. Let me see if I can find it. Because, sometimes people think they find something and he found it immediately. So what he said to me was, he said, I think it might be a cyst, but we can't take any chances on thinking. So let's go ahead and get you set up for a mammogram. So they set me up. The mammogram place called me the day before and was like, I see that you are coming in from a mammogram, but it's only for your right breast. Like you need to get both. And so I had to go back, I had to call the doctor and they had to change the order for both. So I go into the doctor's office. I am fine. Like I wasn't worried. It was weird. I wasn't worried. They did the mammogram. For me, it wasn't that painful. It was it was the second one that I've had. And so it wasn't that painful. It was okay. And then I knew that they were going to do an ultrasound on the right one just because, it was a pretty significant lump. And so what happened was when I was in the waiting room after I did the mammogram, they said that they wanted to do an ultrasound on both because they saw some calcium in the other breast, not the one that I found, but the other one. And so they did the.
When they said they saw some calcium,
Mhm.
based on your background, were you already suspicious or concerned, or you were like, I still don't think this is anything? What were your thoughts when they said? Because normally they have you set up, they get it done, leave, come back. But then the fact that they did it again, was it something that you kind of sensed at that point?
Well, when they said it, like I'm one of my products is actually for osteoporosis, and one of the benefits of it is that it doesn't affect BRCA. Like it's very safe in breast cancer patients because a lot of the bisphosphonates and things that they have for osteoporosis, they aren't good for breast cancer. So when they said it, I was like, calcium, like I didn't realize that was something that when they see that it's kind of a flag, let's just say a caution, because kind of that's how they told me that's sometimes how it starts. Right. So when they brought me back in to do the ultrasound, they were there for a minute. So I was like, okay, they must see something. And mind you, this is the left breast. This isn't in the one that I found. So they told me, they said, okay, we see something here, but we have to, we're going to have to do like a biopsy, right? So they said, so what we'll do is we'll bring you back in. We're going in the lump that you found. They thought that one was a cyst too. They said it might be fluid filled. And so if it's fluid filled, then, then they knew it was a cyst, because if it's hard, there's no fluid. So the way that breast cancer works, if you have a lump, if there's fluid in it, it's not cancer. The cancer, from what I understand, it has to be hard. It has to be solid. So a solid mass. So, but they said but they were definitely gonna, have to biopsy the left breast. So they were trying to do it like 2 weeks out, and I was like, let's do it tomorrow. Do you have something tomorrow?
Now, did
I
you feel empowered? Because a lot of folks will say, okay, 2 weeks, that's pretty quick. So what made you advocate for yourself? Because it's interesting, and we heard, again, the doctor's story. Like I said, we heard the physician talk about breast cancer a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And her point was, you have to be a self-advocate, not only because there's this discrepancy with the healthcare that women receive and men, but now you couple that with the fact, being an African-American woman, sometimes it's even harder to have that voice. So what made you advocate like that? Was it just, I know I can, or talk about that piece?
Well, yeah, being in pharmaceutical sales and being a salesperson, I tend to have a way with talking and getting certain things done, but this is my health, right? And I knew that I would be traveling for work a lot. And I was like, I was traveling the next day, but I was like, hey, my flight don't leave until 11. So I can come in at 7. Do you have an opening? And they actually, they had one opening. And so that's what happened. And I do not like needles. So I was afraid of that part, because I was like, this is going to hurt, but they did a great job. They numbed me up. So They did the lump that I found in the right breast. They tried to aspirate it.
And not to cut you off so folks know. So what you're describing now is the biopsy. So you had the
biopsy.
And there are two types. There's a screening mammogram and a diagnostic. And you had pretty much all that in the same day.
Yes.
And then from there, you said, okay, we saw something. We have to do something about it. And then we moved to biopsy. So describe that biopsy process for us.
Ooh, okay, so they wanted to aspirate or try to aspirate the lump that I found. So they numbed me up, and then they tried to aspirate it and no fluid came out. So they had to biopsy that one too. So they did a really good job with numbing, and they said, you're going to hear this click. Just, it's going to be a little loud, but you shouldn't feel anything. And they said that they were going to tag it with copper so that like they can watch it, just in case, if it wasn't something else, but they were going to tag it with a copper tag. So they did that one. So then they went to the other one and they used the ultrasound to find it, and they biopsied that one and did the same thing. So now I have both breasts with a copper tag in it from the biopsy. And they said, obviously we'll get the results back to you as soon as possible. And so that was on a Thursday. And then the following Monday, now we're in March. So March 15th, 2020, the day that the world shut down for COVID, that was the day that the world shut down. I got a call from my OBGYN asking me if I had heard from radiology. And when he said it, I automatically knew. And he was like, okay. He was like, well, they did find something in the left breast. So not the lump that I found, in the other one. And it was very small. And he was like, and it is cancer. And I was like, I had an overwhelming sense of peace. I was like, all right, what's next? Like, I was not.
That's not the story that most folks hear. And when you led into it and said the world shut down, I said, okay, this is one of those parts in the story where I'm gonna have to lean in. And you were still smelling. Now, why did you have that peace in that very tumultuous time, right? Because the world shut down. You just get told you have cancer. And now let me ask you this, and because I know you, so from a risk factor perspective, were you saying, you know what, I've been not eating right, I hadn't been exercising, I've smoked all my life, because they say you got to have all these risk factors to get breast cancer. So you said, okay, that fit me, huh?
I had none of the risk factors. I've never smoked a day in my life. I'm an avid person who goes to the gym, work out all the time. I don't even eat meat. Like, I've been a vegetarian, well, a sometime-atarian. I don't eat meat. So I'm plant-based as much as possible.
I'm good.
Yeah.
We done talked about
yes.
it. Yeah.
So none of it. And I didn't have a history. My family, there's no history of breast cancer. I may have some relatives twice removed, but nothing, so no, I was definitely, shocked that I had it, but I am a glass half full type person. And I was like, oh, no problem. Let's take care of it. What's next? And he told me, he said, we'll set you up with a breast surgeon that, he normally refers to. And, she'll tell me more about the stage, the grade and what type of cancer it was.
Right.
And I learned a lot because, I didn't know all these things.
All those steps. And so now from that March 15th time frame, so that process started, how long was that? And what types of things did you do? Because I know you did some research on your own. We had talked about kind of dietary or nutritional strategies for that. So what things did you do or did you look at in that interim? Because I know there are probably some folks listening to this that are at that very point before the process of treatment gets started. Because what we just talked about was diagnosis. So what things did you do in that space?
Well, I started just researching breast cancer in general. And then I went on Facebook and found this group. It was the double mastectomy group. Now, I know I skipped all the way there, but I always said, if I ever had, got diagnosed with breast cancer, that I knew that I was going to do a double mastectomy. I knew that I was going to do it. So I skipped. I was like, all right, so let me do research on breast cancer itself. And so I started, try to understand, like, there's different stages, there's different grades, there's even different kinds of breast cancer. And so I didn't know any of that yet, but I started doing the research and I joined that group. And one of the things that I saw people talking about a lot was the reconstruction and like over the muscle or under the muscle implants. That's kind of weird. And I was like, okay, I know this is like later, but that's what everybody was talking about. And so I started doing research and I found an article, and there was this doctor and she was talking about it, and she was a breast cancer survivor. She was also a breast surgeon, and she was a dual breast and plastic surgeon. And I was like, wow. So there was, and she like, and her husband is a plastic surgeon that specializes in neurological conditions, right? So what does that mean? And why did I care? One of the things that I noticed was that people were saying that when you get a double mastectomy, obviously the breast tissue is removed and so are the nerves. So the feeling and the sensation is gone. And they were saying stuff like they couldn't even feel hugs. I was like, I can't imagine hugging someone and not feeling it,
And I know
or
this was before we got on camera where I
yeah,
talked about 4
your
hugs
wife giving you a hug. Yes,
to
yes.
survive, and then you thrive at 8, and then you excel at 12, and so
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine existing in that space.
Yeah.
So this is bad. I didn't know this part. So keep
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I was just like, I can't imagine that, and then they were, they didn't know if their shirt was down, like they just didn't have sensation. And one of the things that this Dr. Paulette talked about in this article was, she wanted, if you were a woman going through breast cancer, or a man for that matter, she wanted it to be as smooth as possible, and wanted you to have, a life of normalcy as much as possible. So she kind of threw herself into research and dedicated, herself to finding those things. And one of the things that they came up with was reconnecting the nerves. So she specialized. So what she specializes is nipple sparing, double mastectomies with over the muscle implants and reconnecting the nerves.
Now, what's the doctor's name again? What's the doctor's name?
Dr. Ann Peled, and Dr. Ziv Peled. They're in San Francisco, California. And they were only two, but together one of two practices that actually did this procedure. And, I'm me. So I'm like, if I'm going to go through this, I want the best care. Like I want the best of the best. So I took a shot. I sent an email. There was an email attached to it. I took a shot. This is just an article that I came across just searching for actually implants over the muscle. And I sent an email. Honestly, I didn't even expect to hear back. I really didn't. So I got an email back. And so my appointment, so I found out Monday. The following Monday, I had the appointment with the surgeon that my OB recommended. And then the following Thursday, I had an appointment with the plastic surgeon that was going to do the reconstruction part in Atlanta. And the doctor Dr. Peled, I had a virtual appointment with her because she was in San Francisco, right? So I had all these appointments set up. So when I went into my Monday appointment with the surgeon here, she explained to me that I had grade 1, stage 1 breast cancer. And she told me that it was behind my left nipple. And she said it was called DCIS.
Carcinoma in situ, right?
Right. So, and she didn't believe it to travel to any of my lymph nodes, which was good. Now she told me this was her word. She was like, "You have old white lady cancer." That's what she told me.
What?
I was like, "What does that even mean?" She was a white lady.
Genetics, like that's them genetics.
She said, she was like, most African American women have a more aggressive form of breast cancer when they get it, and I have a couple of friends that had it. And so I was able to talk to them as well. But so that's what she told me. And I was like, okay. And she was like, basically saying like, for me, she was just like, I could, do probably a double mastectomy, right? Or I could do a lumpectomy. It was up to me. But I would probably lose my left nipple because it was behind there, right? That's what she told me. So understanding how this process works, there's normally two surgeries. So if you're getting a double, or if you're getting a mastectomy or a double mastectomy, the first part of the surgery is to get, they'll go in and they'll remove the breast tissue and they put what they call expanders in. It's like these rubber things, and you go in every week and you get them filled with saline, and it helps your body get used to your new size and different things like that. And then about 3 months later, you'll go back and get, if you choose to get implants, then they'll put the implants in. So, but there's normally it's a 2-part surgery, right? They have all different kinds of stuff. I mean, you can get like a tummy tuck and they'll put that skin in there so you don't have to like deal with the implants. Like they got all kind of different techniques these days. So I opted, obviously, like I said, to do the double mastectomy. So when I was talking to the first doctor, that's what she told me would probably happen. You'll get the double mastectomy. She told me I might be able to go directly into implants because some people do that instead of having the expanders, but she didn't know. But she did tell me that I would probably lose my left nipple. So that was Monday. So that was the plan. So I met with the plastic surgeon that morning, or Thursday morning. And so he explained to me, no, you're definitely going to have expanders. You can't go directly into implants. You will lose the nipple, but we'll do, he's a plastic surgeon. So he wants to make it aesthetically, try to make sure that it looks good. So he was telling me they got tattooing of, the nipple and all. I mean, like there's so many things. They even can take the skin and make it like pull it up and sew it around to look like a nipple. And then you get the areola tattoo. Like it doesn't serve. It just looks good. But right. I was like, okay, I mean, it is what it is. Right. So then I came home and I really liked the plastic surgeon. And I had my virtual call with Dr. Follett. And when I heard her voice, I immediately knew I wanted her to be my doctor. As you know, being a doctor in your bedside manner and just understanding and being compassionate to your patients because they're going through something, right? They're already here. She was amazing. And she just gave me so much insight. She told me a lot of what the other doctor told me, but then she told me like the way she kind of does it is they put a whole team together to look at your case. They got the oncologist, the radiologist, the breast surgeon, and they look at it to come up with the best plan of care for your specific case. And then she told me, about her husband and like what he does with the neurological piece of it, and they reconnect the nerves and just it was just amazing. Like, so I was like, so her plan was, we're going to do a lumpectomy in your first surgery. We'll do a lumpectomy with a breast reduction to get you to the size that you want, and so that everything starts healing. The nipple heals, because the thing about it is some people will try to save the nipple, but it'll die because the blood isn't flowing the way they do, like I explained the other way. Yeah, they do the double mastectomy first, which are removing the breast tissue and like all of the blood circulation. And then you're trying to keep this nipple alive and nothing is in there to have the blood flowing and keep it together. So she was like, we'll do a lumpectomy with a breast reduction. So we'll get the cancer out. That's the first thing. Like, let's get that cancer out. And then you'll keep the breast tissue to help keep the nipple alive for the second surgery. And she said, and then you'll come, with COVID going on and everything, which was crazy because you got to take these COVID tests. Man, they told me once I
got the call when y'all got out there. Hey, is there any way?
Man,
how am I going to? But I made it.
Yes.
Made it happen.
Made it happen. No. But yes, it was crazy. What was that?
You went through that process. And I think it was interesting that you talked about the role of the doctor-patient relationship and the importance of empathy, right? Because sympathy is where, I feel bad for that patient, but I really can't relate. Whereas empathy is, I've been where you are. I want your experience to be good. and I want you to understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And not to say that the doctors in Atlanta were bad, but like you said, once I heard her voice and
Yes.
her situation resonated with me, there was a certain kinship that was there that in medicine, a lot of times it takes time to build that real and personal relationship.
Yeah.
Now you go through the procedure, you did well. What was after the procedure like? Because it sounds like you know, in that, being in an environment where you had that team and you were able to make those decisions, a lot of people say, well, what is life like after breast cancer surgery and after? I mean, is it worry? Is it what? Talk about that for a second.
Okay, so a couple things. So I had the lumpectomy with the breast reduction, May 20th, 2020. I had to have the double mastectomy within 3 months. So that was August 3rd, because I did not, thank God, I did not have to have radiation or chemo in my situation. Okay, so I think that's, yes. So that's when I went to San Francisco with my best friend, roommate, college roommate, nurse, Taylor Stonebat. And because of COVID, see, here's the crazy thing. This is how God works a little bit. Because of COVID, she was able to come out there with me for this process and stay with me for, we were out there for 9 days. Thank you. If I haven't said it, I'm sure I did. But yeah, she was, I mean, like that was a blessing, because if COVID wasn't going on, she would have been able to do that. So I was blessed in that fashion to have her there. So, you know, this is surgery number 2. So Dr. Paulette did the most thoughtful double mastectomy like ever. Like, and they told me that I had some great nerve. So, you know, people ask me, I'm like, I got a lot of nerve right now, right? So they reconnected my nerves. They said everything went great. They did an amazing job. You know, breast cancer, double mastectomies aren't like they used to be, where you had this big line going across. I mean, like they did an excellent job. You can't even tell. Like, there's a small, it just looks like a small scar. Like, they did an amazing job. So
Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, I didn't know what to expect waking up. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be in so much pain, but medicine these days, like, everybody's experience is different. But whatever they gave me, whatever was a nerve block or something, I felt great. Like, I was like, did y'all do anything? Like, this is my experience. Right. I wasn't in a lot of pain. There was some swelling, and I had drains, right? So they put these 2 incisions, and they have drains to help you get the fluid off, and you got to change them, and they fill up with blood and different fluids just to help with the inflammation and, help keep infection. So had to keep those in for a week and a half, I think, the first time. And so but I felt pretty good. And, they told me I needed to get up and walk, prevent blood clots and stuff like that. And my nurse Taylor, was like, okay, tomorrow you're gonna have to walk. I beat her up. I was like, let's go. I was ready. She was like, do it. Okay. Like, yeah. So she was just like ready to, to do whatever. And she was just like, you're doing a good job. So, I mean, she really, it was a godsend. But for me, I wasn't in that much pain at all. Like, I just took my time and rested. The swelling was the biggest part. And, staying hydrated and different things like that. So you definitely, there is post care. But the biggest thing is you have to trust the process. You got to trust the process and give yourself grace for healing and, different things like that.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, I jumped on it early. This is the type I had. It was not as aggressive. I didn't have to go through radiation. I didn't have to go through chemo. The surgery went well. And I think when you frame it like that, because there's a lot of emotional connection, and I'll speak for, last month was Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. And we know prostate cancer, and I'll say this as PC as possible, there are some functions that a man doesn't have in many cases after prostate cancer, and that affects his psyche. On the flip side, when you look at mastectomy and then some of the other things that go along with cancer treatment, losing your hair and your body image changing, did you feel any of those things, or because you were able to catch it early and were very proactive? Because again, like I said, I know, did you stop? No, because we were traveling several months, after. So
Yeah.
no, it was
Life
less,
goes.
but that emotional piece that happened, did you experience any of that?
So I always knew that I was going to get through it. Like I never, not once that I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Nope. I knew. I always knew. I had that overwhelming sense of peace. And so I just pushed forward the whole time. I think there was one time where I just kind of stopped and realized and I cried, but it was tears of gratefulness. Like it wasn't like I can't believe it was, I just cried because I'm just like, so many, if I was going to have breast cancer, this was the way to have it. Like I found a silver lining in the whole process. And what I came to understand is, sometimes things happen to you, they happen to you, but they're not really for you. They're for other people, to help other people. And since I've been diagnosed, people have come to me because they know that I had it and I was able to help them and talk them through it and connect them with different people and different resources. So oftentimes I feel like I went on this journey to help other people, which, as I started out saying, from early childhood, I've always wanted to help people. And maybe that's why I had the overwhelming sense of peace that I was going to be okay. But yeah, I've been able to help others since I've been diagnosed, and I'm doing well. I'm thriving now, and that part of it, like, just means a lot to me.
Wow. And I like the fact that you said it circled back to your purpose, or what you identified that purpose to be, because a lot of my patients, from a cardiovascular standpoint, I tell them in many cases, it changes the version of you who you were. But ultimately, my goal as a cardiologist is to take their hand, and if they trust me, and if we trust each other, we take this work together to find that new version, that better version, that more engaged version, that despite having heart disease, despite having breast cancer, you say, okay, that is a part of me, right? But what am I now? And so that's, so now when we talk about thriving, and this is where we transition, but I do have to ask, from a lifestyle perspective, you always exercise. Did you make any changes to your diet or supplement? Because I know that when we talk about breast cancer, especially sporadic, right? Because we know the genetic component. Did you have genetics done to see if you were BRCA1 positive, ER, PR? Did you have those genetics or those type things done?
Yes. And I wasn't like, there's no history. I didn't have the BRCA gene. My cancer was estrogen positive. So they knew, what was causing it, which was, I guess, a good thing. So yeah, I definitely, there's different theories about dairy and whether it affects, some people say yes, some people say no, but my whole thing was, in the event that it does, let me just cut back on dairy, let me just transition out of it. And so I've made some adjustments that way. I did, like, I gained weight when going through the process. I was like, well, obviously things were changing in my body, and I was, that part for me was different because I never had a weight problem, but I definitely started gaining. And then on my Facebook group, people was calling it like the Buddha belly, like, because your upper belly was protruding. And I'm just like, they were like, a lot of people have this, and I don't know if it was because of fluid, like, I don't know, but like, it took me a while to get that off. And I've, because I got a Peloton because I felt like I wouldn't be doing a whole bunch of jumping and stuff. And I wanted to do, I'm trying to, stay healthy, because the thing about it is, being overweight, not exercising are also risk factors of breast cancer. So I didn't want any of it to come back. And I'm just like, okay, I gotta figure out how to get, this extra weight off, and keep exercising, because the one thing that, and it was funny because when they were first talking to me about it, they were like, oh, getting a double mastectomy doesn't reduce the fact of you getting cancer again. And I'm like, wait, what? So why would I get it? Yeah. So what they should say, and they should explain it better, is that it does reduce the fact of you getting breast cancer again, because people get it multiple times, right? But it does not change anything for you getting cancer in the rest of your body.
Got it.
So that's the thing. And I was like, yeah. So I'm just like, y'all gotta say that. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm just like, I didn't understand it. And, just being on the group, some people have had it multiple times. And some people who even had double mastectomies, when they got it again, it was on the incision, because it was like where the incision was, because, I guess if you,
breast tissue.
right. And that's why when you get a double mastectomy and they go to your follow-up and they talk about the margins, they cleared the margins.
Right.
Those are the things that are important. And, that's, you don't want any residual. So there's that part of it. But yeah, I got a Peloton. I rode my Peloton. I changed some things in my diet. Just
raw vegan thing, because you recommended a restaurant to me that you didn't tell me was a raw vegan restaurant, and yeah, go ahead and laugh. I'm like, where's the? Oh, this is all we got. I said, but this is all salady. But I will say it was good. Now, a lot of raw vegan. I'm still plant vegan, but I need not that you can't get protein, but it was just a different vibe, the raw vegan vibe. But I know you did that. So
I had one today, actually. Had one of the little wraps today. It was good too. I was like,
I'm not tripping. So from here, right? So we've gone through that. You've had this story. You've done that. And I want to hear about what happened next, right? So you've conquered it, right? You said, okay. And I know your business endeavors have always been these evolving things. And I like it because I'm a model for one of your companies. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I took my picture down.
It's up there.
It's still up there. All right.
It's still on there.
Hey, I got through that. Now I'm moving into a new phase in my life. And these business endeavors, despite having this in the backdrop, you still were able to accomplish these other things. Talk about that.
Yes. So yeah, like I said, I've always been ambitious and had an entrepreneurial spirit. And so I've had a couple of companies. So I started with a ballet, all-female ballet service called Dixon Ballet Service. And we did multiple, our tagline was a beautiful parking experience. And one of the things that we did was, if they were private parties and like different events or, trunk shows or different things, that's kind of what our attire would be. And, the ballet is the first stop when somebody comes to your event. So that actually was a pretty cool concept. And the Lamborghini, people would do events at the Lamborghini dealership, and they would make them call us. They were like, you can't have an event here unless you call Dixon Ballet Service, and they do the parking. So that was pretty cool. Of course, women empowerment, right? All women. And so then I have skirts and sports, because I am a sports fanatic. All things sports, right?
Weights together, you almost lift the bar. That's good. And that's another kind. Do not lift weights with people that get distracted while you on. That's all I'm saying. But we'll keep going.
Good conversation though. So skirts and sports, yes. Which is pretty cool, because I got a opportunity to interview Deion Sanders, who's kind of hot right now. So I got this video I need to put out with Prime Time talking about skirts and sports. So and he would come to Atlanta and do like different foundations, and he would always call us, and we would, host some of them and do all these different things. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, and so now I have Hive. That's spelled Hyve, and it is a eyewear company, and Hive stands for Helping Your Vision Evolve. So the premise behind that is, I've always wanted anything that I did to stand for something. So sunglasses is the product, but it has so many different symbolizations for life, right? Sometimes you need a dark pair just to block things out, right? Block things out, but you still got to see, right? You got polarized, that the light adjusts in different situations that you walk into, and then sometimes you have a clear frame where you're seeing clearly and everything, happens. You still need your vision. And so we wanted because I have a business partner who does it with me. But one of the things we wanted to do was just help kind of push people into their purpose. And what we know is when you look good, you feel good, right?
That's right.
And so our whole thing was, okay, well, as you're walking into your purpose, as everything is happening and your light starts shining bright around you, nobody has to turn away. They can just put on a pair of high sunglasses and watch you shine. So, it's so many things. The confidence, confidence is your style. And so this endeavor has been one of my favorites because, the accessories are amazing. And I tell people all the time, you wear the sunglasses do not wear you. So
exactly. And I have you all know, I'm not just a Hive supporter. I think I might own, unless they came out with a new line, I think I own every pair, between my wife and I. We are
oh my gosh
supporters. It was the first modeling deal that I got, so I feel good. It was a modeling deal.
We need to renew your contract.
I do. We need to have that conversation. So after this, we're going to have a model conversation. But what I can tell you is just your story is amazing, and just hearing the different phases of you fulfilling that purpose. Because even if you loop this back around to the businesses, right, and you helping people, whether it's with the valet service, whether it's with, skirts and sports, or whether it is allowing people to see themselves through a different lens with Hive. And I love that, because it's not just you found success and just sat there. And that's what I always tell people. There are so many different ways that we can reach out to other people. And my dad used to have a saying that says, there's no rule that says you can't do well while you do good, right? People always
I love that.
That you have to be in this state where, well, I'm just going to continue in this space of you. That's fine and all. But at the end of the day, you can reach more people as you build capital, whether that's relational capital, financial capital, intellectual capital. So, and I think you provide a great example for that. Well, I know your time is valuable. But if you had, let's say, 4 things to leave people with, what would they be?
Number one is know your value and know your worth, right? Because you hear it all the time, and people kind of put themselves behind other people, but you're important. It's kind of like the concept of make sure your oxygen mask is going first before you try to help somebody else, because I know that's kind of how we are, but take care of yourself, know your value, and know your worth. I would also say give yourself grace. Okay, we're not perfect. Sometimes we messed up, and the good thing is we find a lot out about ourselves in some of our failure, right? That's what kind of helps mold us into the people that we are now. And you really appreciate the end game because of the journey. So, and when you think about it, you plant a seed in the darkness, in the dark soil, and as long as you're watering it properly in the sunlight, so many different things, you don't know how many things are going to come out from that one seed, but know that in the darkness is where things are planted and where the plan is, and you grow from that. So I think those are, for me, those are the things that stand out. And surround yourself with good people who truly are supporters and people that you can talk to. So surround yourself with great people.
I mean, and that's a master class right there on success, whether it's in life or whatever. So we're gonna have you back. And in this conversation, we might drill down on kind of healthcare and where you think it's going and how and when I say we, I mean more than just the African American diaspora. I mean we as just a collective can improve, because looking at your resume, whether it is enhancing healthcare delivery, whether it is optimizing pharmaceutical sales, whether it is planning and strategizing for healthcare innovation in a market, you got all that skill set. So we gonna dig into that too.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I love it. So as we move to a close, as I said, October is a special month, but to hear a story of empowerment, a story of life, a story of hope, in a sense where even in a tough time, where the world stops, you find peace. We were able to hear that with Ahsh Murphy. understanding that her story is one that should resonate not only with women, not only with sufferers who are recovering from breast cancer, but also individuals who want to truly embrace where their life is. She gives us that blueprint. She lets us know to value ourselves, to have grace, and to finally surround yourself with people that care about you. And I can tell you, this interaction with her truly has reflected that. So as I always say, this is Dr. Batts with the About That Life podcast, the podcast about life where we live intentionally forever. Thank you.
We truly hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, share it with a friend, leave a comment, and certainly join us for our next episode of the About That Life podcast.